And are we live? What's going on, everybody? Give me 1 second. I'm getting set up. Thank you to those of you who have shown up. I decided to do this about an hour ago because I like to be prepared. I like to, really make sure I know what I'm going to talk about. And it takes a lot of preparation to do these things. Realistically, I've been under a lot of stress and I just kind of wanted to get some content out and get some stuff off my chest. I've been, doing a lot of just I don't even think research is the right word lately. I've been doing a lot of, I would just say, studying. I've been doing just a lot to work on my knowledge in my unfortunately I've had a lot of downtime in my downtime to just better my basic storytelling knowledge. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. And I'm also going to answer some questions. I'm going to talk about what I think content should be and what I look for and what I hope to do, which is actually not that ambitious. It's just like the title says, the story is all of ours. And I'm going to talk about the people that I got inspired by and the people that are inspiring me now. Some of you are in the actual room as we speak. I just need to pull up on I can see what's going on. I think we have the lovely Amanda who will be moderating the chat. I got some questions that were submitted. And I forgot to get the ones that were submitted from the last one I was supposed to do. So sorry. I didn't claim to be great at what I do. But yeah, we got the hurricane coming here. I live in North Carolina. And evidently hurricanes are bad. Trump has said it's going to get pretty wet. And Trump says something, you got to believe it unless he tells you not to. So I think it's going to be, a little bit of an event. I'm hoping it's not too bad. And I hope it doesn't make it so I don't have power forever or drown because I can't swim. Okay, chat. Since iPad is opening this up and everything but what I needed it. Let's see. And good. I'm gonna get the pop-up right here in front of me since this is acting like a piece of crap. Let's see. And 1 second, guys. I promise I'll be able to see what you're saying in a moment. Where are we at? And go. All right. So I should be able to get the pop out chat. And then we should be good. Okay. Now I can see. All right. Thank you to Fandom D Saint, also aka Broke Black Man. Great content creator. And just please, I don't like the name BBM. God, change it. But you are one of the best out there, one of the best people. Amanda Kane, the moderator. Milt K, the geophysicist. Everybody's got one. And Johnny B. Crazy. Ben Hogan. Let's see. LMR. We got Kirsten in here. And Amberlyn on one of my top Patreons. So yeah, we got some questions. Guys, is my mic level okay? Because remember, I want to be screaming at you, but I don't want to be screaming at you like, so much. Let me know how that is. And we will jump into the questions. And here we go. I finally have it set so I can see. So that's a plus. So loud and clear. Thank you, Amanda. Okay, so let's first off take a look. I know the first question was, what do I think is going to happen in Westworld season 3? And obviously, Westworld is quite a bit away for season 3. And it's kind of really, really hard to say using like actual facts of what we know, like what has been foreshadowed and what we know about the events, what they're going to be, what we know about the events of the season finale. We're kind of unclear. So it's kind of hard to really put like something I would say to put like much weight behind on it. but I would go ahead and say, because of the foreshadowing, and I don't know if any of you guys caught it, but there's a lot of religious symbolism in this season, especially. So I think I've come to the conclusion with the pearls that what we'll see, because I think we're going to get a dramatic time jump. I think that these pearls will be new hosts. I mean, completely new hosts. I don't think she'll make anybody from the park. I think that this is going to be their kind of like it's going to be the birthing, like the like the next generation of them. Like I see the events that we saw play out in season 2 kind of turning into their doctrine, their like their biblical story per se. And I see the new start out here that they would be injecting completely new characters, because again, I've said quite a few times, it worries me a little that they don't know who those characters are. But if it doesn't worry me as much when I think about it sensibly and think, okay, what would make sense is that they're just not going to have any, like they're not bringing anybody back, because if they were, they had very few to choose from, let's be frank. And if they didn't know, that would be very odd, because as much as I crapped on season 2, it's still very, very, this is a show that's ran by professionals regardless of the mistakes in season 2. So I can't imagine that they would have like not known like Teddy's arc. Like I think Teddy's arc is definitely, he's done. I don't think that he was such a central character, and especially such a character that really did his job. If you look at it as a whole, he fulfilled what he needed to do. He was definitely a tool for Dolores. He unlocked a lot of emotions. He triggered a lot of actions that needed to happen for her. He made her be in situations where she had to make decisions. I mean, the storytelling is all actions and reactions. It is just like life. We don't ever like walk into a room and think, I'm going to tell a monologue. If you do, you might be a douche. So it's, people do things, we react. That's how you tell who somebody is. And that's who you really are, because your actions are you. So, Teddy had to do some things in season 2, which meant going against Dolores. And we saw how she coped with all that. His job, essentially, in a storytelling sense, is done. The only reason to bring him back would be succumbing to like fan demands of the fandom, and I don't see a lot of demands for that. But I don't know, disagree with me or not. I see about a 3 to 4 to maybe even longer year time jump. I see Bernard already having some associates in the outside world. I see Dolores possibly having a relationship in the outside world, and I see 5 new actors, 5 new hosts, and then I see a probably 25% of the season going to Maeve's story, which she will be, spoiler alert, most likely, yes, resurrected and brought back. And she'll probably, her powers will be cut back. She'll be kind of like held as a prisoner, but also with her ability to contact the host, I see kind of like a deal where she will be broadcasting out maybe to the hosts that are on the outside. But besides that, you don't know. They say they're not going to be spending much time in Westworld. So we have to just assume that we are going to step in probably at the end of some events happening, and then we'll start the story as they tend to do, which is in a clusterfuck way. But let's see. Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Amberlyn, for that super chat. That means the world, and you are one of my biggest supporters. As far as, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Yeah, Johnny, he's in Sublime. He's there forever. Let's see. I hope there'll be a party from the Argos. When you look at these stories, and one of the arguments I had recently, not really an argument. I think, Mill, you were part of this discussion. Then I had another discussion with somebody else. We were kind of talking about people, like, when is it appropriate to like hold these stories to like real world standards. I think it was Ideas of Ice and Fire had posted on his Twitter about somebody who was arguing with him about Arya's, the obscene Arya storyline in season 5, where she is stabbed multiple times and then falls into a poopy river, blah, 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 runs across town to her actor friend's house, and she's okay. That's not very realistic. But the issue is this person was saying their argument was all hinged on medieval medicine. The other person's argument was all hinged on modern day medicine. You can't apply real world standards to fictional world situations unless they've given you nothing to work off of, because that's just sloppy storytelling. So you have nowhere to go. So the writer should know that your mind is just going to jump to what we know. But we do have a fair amount of pretext and understanding, like in A Song of Ice and Fire, especially of how, especially the next episode, we see a stab wound happen to what's his name, Lancel, and he dies right away. We see infection in quite a few cases, especially in the books, and if in the lore, there's quite a bit of disease and whatnot. We know enough to know that that's probably, it's not warranted a suspension of disbelief. But a lot of people choose to disprove or prove things with real world facts, and there's certain times where that's appropriate, and that's when they've established this to be relevant and established this to be current day, blah blah blah, the atmosphere is right. But it's kind of odd, and that's another thing I kind of want to get into here is I've been thinking about what content creation should be and why I want to make content, because I've been off for a little bit. And what made me want to make content is I used to have a few YouTubers I would watch when I was barely even familiar with the platform. And I already had I've always loved storytelling. I've always been involved in acting and stuff like that. But I remember the first time, I don't even remember who it was, but they just gave me a tidbit of information that I don't even think I agreed with what they were saying per se, but it came from a place of intelligence. And it made me rewatch a show that I was already rewatching, and it made me rewatch it and enjoy it more. What more could you ask for? I think that I've always strayed away from theories. I try to, because again, like I'm talking about, like you get into these weird paradoxes where it's like you're trying to prove or disprove like theories or story aspects of the story using information that's really not fair to be used, and it's really not in line with what's going on. So you end up just kind of like pushing your opinions on people, and it turns into like you telling people what things are and how things are, when in all reality it doesn't matter how many lectures you've had, how many screenplays you may have written yourself. You don't know what D&D are doing. You don't know what Westworld is doing. I think that the best YouTubers implements this as a question. What do you think, the best YouTubers do? I think, and my goal is to just make people aware of certain situations, not try to change their mind, because it's not for you to do. It's all of our stories. It's all of our enjoyment. It's so great to just be able to have somebody tell you something about, say, a Song of Ice and Fire, and you may not agree with them, but you're maybe going to reread that chapter and you're going to look at it in a different light and investigate it and decide for yourself. I think people that do this well, and a good guy, a friend, Smokescreen, he does his foreshadowing. Unfortunately, I don't watch a lot of other channels right now, so I haven't caught up, but I think he's still doing them. His videos where he does the foreshadowing, those are things that you can really enjoy, number one, because if theories are your thing, that's great. I like theories. They're fun, but are they they're rarely right, and they're rarely based off of information that's relevant. I see a lot of times people are using prophecy. Almost exclusively prophecy is used to predict Game of Thrones. I think that I couldn't see more of an oxymoron in it if I tried. The whole series is about not like buying in the prophecy, and then everybody's using prophecy as viewers of a show that's telling you showing you the issues with prophecy as their proof. So it's kind of funny. And again, if you enjoy that, that's fine. But I think a more productive thing is to just try to find just different ways to look at things in different aspects of the show that come from an intelligent place, that come from storytelling in general. I think a lot of people that only complain about the actual Thrones YouTube community is it has some of the best in it, but it has some people that are just so informed about Thrones, but so misinformed about how like actual storytelling works. Like, and I know that sounds stupid, but there's basic structures and stuff that they adhere to, and they're not going to stray to. stray from, excuse me. So I think that you get people that are so caught up in this fandom, which hey, we all do. I love it too. But then they kind of think that translates into just like some type of expert level of like storytelling. So they're basing everything off of A Song of Ice and Fire, and they're not looking at other works and stuff. I mean, that's why you see some of the better people like exploring George's other works and exploring other works in general. And it sucks for a lot of creators because we try to do different stuff and not a lot of people want to see it. They want to see Thrones. I gotta recheck this chat. Sorry. Let's see. Um, it's just people want to put you in a little situation and they want to, like they want to say, okay, you talk about Westworld, so let's talk about Westworld. I think that I do a fairly good job with Westworld. I think we did a really good job before the dust settles. Like I said, I really do put a lot of time into just really trying to better my knowledge of storytelling in general, because I want to talk about a wide variety of things, but that's not advantageous to this platform because you got to niche down, because channels need to be specific. People want to they subscribe for a certain reason. When they see other content, they're pissed. You see, I mean, I have the the blessing and curse of I'm not very big, so it's like nobody cares that much. But you see some of the bigger creators sometimes try to do like different topics, and it's kind of like it's upsetting to me because people are like, what the fuck, man, why are you talking about this? More season 8 games prediction. It's like they just want to see it, and it is what it is. You can't shit on it, but I think that it's important to understand that there is some structure to storytelling, and that's when I'll get into my next question, pacing, that are going to in general, yes, be followed. And of course there's always screenwriters that are going to step outside the box and they're going to do things, but in reality it's just impossible to really stray from some things. And in these predictions and stuff like that, that's why I think that it's kind of, at least I see it would be a waste of my time to focus on, even though you probably get more views. Like Westworld, come on, I could do a who's a host, who's not a host, especially last season, all day long. Those videos would take like an hour and they'd probably get more views than a lot of my videos got. But I mean, I don't see that as substance. I don't like doing that. But it's a little bit of an issue when you're basing things off of just in worlds aspects, and especially when you're basing it off of like prophecy and stuff, instead of like, where do you think, like, story wise, this makes, like, where does this have to end up to per se, because it's just one way or another going to probably be a little bit disappointing. And that's probably the worst part about having a successful series, is we feel like we are so in tuned and we're so attached to these characters that we're never going to be satisfied. And with long form storytelling, we've seen, I was talking to Milt about this other day, we've seen a total of, I think it's 192 hours of Thrones. If you break that down into your basic 3-act, which is way more than 3 acts in one episode, I'm going to do a video on this, of the story, we've seen the equivalent of 64 theatrical released movies. So we've seen the amount of story that is contained in 64, an hour and a half to 2 hour, maybe even 3 hour, doesn't matter, like feature length blockbuster movies. So we've seen 64 movies. And that's the great part, is we get to see things go on, because it's not just the overcoming the first obstacle and they learn a little something, they adapt to their new situation, and it turns out to be all okay, and the bad guy loses and the good guy wins, or they take a slight little twist. No, we've seen arc after arc, act after act. So we are going to eventually see things come to a conclusion this season, and it might not be it's almost going to be impossible to be as satisfying as we would like. But let's talk about pacing. And I apologize, Amanda, if you could highlight if there's any questions. Pacing, let's use Game of Thrones as an example. Is it important? Yes. And BBM and me were talking about this the other day. Pacing is really, really important, especially in a show like Thrones, where they established their pacing so well, especially as far as it went with how long it took to get places, because you have to think pacing is you, the organic heartbeat of your story. So you establish it. You establish it through more than just travel. You establish it through dialogue. You establish it through, just events happening throughout the, fictional world. You establish it through character development. You see how quickly they're able to, overcome, go through their different stages of acts and arcs, and it's set pretty steadily throughout the first 4 to even maybe five is like half and half seasons of Game of Thrones. But the big problem is, and where it comes into where you do have an issue when you speed up, like this is a very simple example, but the like travel in Game of Thrones, I was again talking to BBM about this, it's actually an issue and not a nitpick, because travel was a central plot device in the first few seasons. Think about why Rob was in the situation he was in, for a bridge. Why did he make that deal with Walder Frey? For a bridge to be able to get past Tywin's forces to ambush Jaime. Distance, travel, even before the Red Wedding, spoiler alert, the Red Wedding happens. It's not the best wedding. He was, again, time was, the stakes were all hinged on time. So like when you use travel in the time it takes to travel as a plot device, opposed to if they didn't address that at all and it wasn't a problem and then they sped things up, that's not as big of an issue. But the Hound and Arya are showing up everywhere just a few days late, so she's missing her family. That affects her arc. Rob dies because he needed to save time because of the travel in Westeros. So you can't use it as one of your central plot devices, literally, and then ignore it, because it feels, whether people are not realize it, it just feels off. It's not like, well, that's not realistic, because guess what? The whole thing's not realistic. That's not really the argument. The argument is, what have you established, and have you stuck to what you've established? Because the metaphor I'm using is Game of Thrones, the television series. The first 4 seasons is remember, like maybe you're young and your grandparents sit you down and tell you this wonderful story, and they take all the time in the world. You sit there with your siblings and they're telling you this great story. And then your parents come and you unexpectedly have to leave, right? You just got to bounce. You got to go. So the grandparents are going to drive you. So they just kind of like sum up what's going to happen in the car ride home, when they've taken like weeks to tell you this story or whatever, but then they like finish it up in an hour, because that's what's happening right now. The pacing, people will be like, well, it's sped up because it's climax. Yes, events speed up in a climax of a story, but they speed up. That the way they speed up is by following your constant, which is the actual pacing they've established. That time stays the same. The time doesn't exist now. Like, we're not seeing what happens in between. Again, it's like D&D are in the front seat of the car, turning around to a toddler in a seat, being like, and then the wall fell in a post-credit scene. I was telling Milt this. It's like, look at how much it took to establish what was happening with the walkers, what was happening with the wall. It fell in a post-credit scene. That is literally the cliff note. So you do have an issue, and time is not the only aspect of pacing. Again, you still have, if not the same amount of acts, probably double the amount of acts in less time. So them cutting episodes, and again, I'm not here to shit on the show, but them cutting episodes but covering the same amount of acts shows that they're giving cliff notes of a show in a summary of events, rather than showing you the fleshed out plot. So that's my whole thing on that. Pace matters. Yes, pace matters. It's everything that you establish to be your fictional world matters. Everything from the physics of it to the pacing, everything that you do in your first act matters. It's how are people supposed to care about what's happening if what they've been told is happening in your initial introduction, the only time you have to learn about these people? That's why most scenes of television shows and movies will always include either they're at a new job, there's a child, or people are meeting each other for the first time. That's because you get a lot of exposition. You get people to be like, and this is Frank, he works for this place, and you get to hear a little bit about his family. You get to know who people are, and you see what they're doing, what is normal. And once you establish that, and that's supposed to be in the first 10% of your script, you got to stick to it. you know. So that's my only thing on that. Sorry if I'm babbling here. How is the pacing in The Walking Dead compared to GOT? I would say the pacing in The Walking Dead actually is not bad. Now, The Walking Dead, let me be clear. I don't mean to be rude or maybe a little bit of a dick, but The Walking Dead, as far as television goes, it's not bad, but it's like a dumpster fire that is in Yemen. It's like a Yemen dumpster fire. It's they need to quit. But the pacing's not bad in The Walking Dead. The actual structure of, in my opinion, the structure of their storylines and their character arcs are too clustered, and then they're too they call it bottle episodes. They have a bad sense of feeling out an audience that's strangely highly engaged with them. They seem to always go the wrong way. Like even before it went really bad, they started messing up with just losing focus on what was working, and then choosing to inject more characters into their story and make the world bigger, but the world actually felt smaller. When The Walking Dead's world got bigger, it got smaller on screen because everything then, and now this probably in fairness has to do with their budget, which AMC probably should have done something. It's all conjecture here, but whatever. What I mean is once we got more communities and everything, then we started getting bottle episodes, and that was most likely to do with it's tough to pay all those actors because you got to pay them the show. So some have contracts that are just what they are, like Andrew Lincoln, but they want to have people come in, shoot for a certain amount of time, and get them off lot and get them out of Georgia. So that would be my thing. I don't think their pacing was ever bad, though. The Walking Dead died as soon as they did 2 cliffhangers in a row, but now it's really going to be dead because people love Daryl, but they don't realize that Daryl can't be your main protagonist. Not because you don't have empathy for him, you definitely do. You think about what Daryl did when Negan lined him up. Daryl punched Negan, right? Because Daryl is awesome. That's the type of guy Daryl is. But that doesn't progress your plot. That progressed the plot because there was still a Rick. Now, Rick was willing to wait it out and swallow his pride and actually, deal with Negan and play the long game. And again, Daryl's awesome, but Daryl can't be Daryl if you have him progressing your narrative, because Daryl's decisions are all based off of what he feels. They're all emotional based. He doesn't have a lot of strategy. We saw that again last season. And he just can't progress your plot. I mean, not only him being kind of a loner and he doesn't talk a lot, but it's just not going to work. I don't know if that's what they're planning. My whole thing is, once you have established, again, this is another example of, look at all the foreshadowing in The Walking Dead about the future. And I mean, plus you have the comics that they didn't do like a slow burn break with that. They followed, they started switching some things around, then they killed the main protagonist. It's all been about Rick. The series, if it wouldn't be a money grab, they should have some dignity and stop making it. I don't care how many people you put in. The Whisperers aren't going to be any good if you don't have any connection to people. We're going to see more people lose. You can have the best premise in the world. If you don't have characters that you care about and characters that make sense, that premise sucks. You can't do anything with it, because the only actions only mean something if the people that are actually involved in those actions mean something to you. That's the whole thing where people say character versus plot. Character and plot are the same thing. Characters make plot, plot makes character. If you have characters that are very well conceived and they have a lot of dimensions, they can take a very mundane, like Halt and Catch Fire is a great example of this, not like that exciting of a premise for that show. And yes, it's more character driven, but even though the events that you're very likable, your very dimensional characters are actually going through are not that exciting if you just like would put them off to the side and look at them as like just the actions and just put Joe Schmo in them. Not very exciting, but they're exciting because of the dynamics of the characters you're watching. Great characters can sit in one room And they do this a lot on Broadway. You know, they have those plays where everybody's just in one room having a conversation and make great entertainment. You don't need, you know, you could have the most one-dimensional flat characters in the world on a spaceship ready to fight Martians on an asteroid with Bruce Willis drilling into it with a nuke. You know, if those characters that you're sending to that very exciting action set piece suck, that by default that plot is bad as well. So it's not like you hear character driven a lot, and that's just like, if used correctly, that just means that the characters are holding the plot up, but the characters make the plot. Same, the actions that your characters face, they will develop them more. The more stakes on the line, more you care about your characters and so forth. Yeah, I mean, I love Daryl, but Daryl can't be Daryl if you put him in the leader group. Let's see. Sluts does that well. The action keeps intriguing. I'm catching up on you guys here. Yeah, I mean, then they got what's his name that played Opie for whatever his name is, Alpha. I mean, great actor and all that, but it's just like, man, I mean, how long do you think Jeffrey Dean Morgan's going to stay attached to that? Not long. You're going to see people departing, and it's the right thing to do. Let's see. Steve, Stranger Things, and Gotcha. All right, let's talk about Game of Thrones spoilers. How do I feel? And again, I don't think my opinion is that important. I feel like I listen to them because they are what they are. I don't do them, but it's not like a sense of like I would be. I think I'm better or something. I would do, you know, some very questionable. No, I'm joking. I was gonna make a porn joke, but I'm not going to. So yeah, spoilers. I think that people that bitch about them probably shouldn't, just because, listen, if you're on the internet, you got to be careful. Does it suck? I feel for you, because again, my whole thing is I just want to better myself and better my channel and give people like those little breadcrumbs of information that could make rereading a Jamie chapter that much better, or watching a series they maybe wouldn't have watched, or watching it again, you know. And again, I don't, it's not about like, there's all these people that are like, I know this much about this show, and I'm gonna tell you guys and everybody. I love seeing the comments like, man, oh my god, I'm so happy. I wouldn't understand the show if it wasn't for you. Don't give people that much credit. Listen, most content creators that do a lot of good explained videos, they're just very, very well spoken, which I definitely can appreciate, and they basically are just saying things really slowly, that it's almost just like a TV guide summary. I don't get that when I see like people saying, "Oh, I would never get Westworld if it wasn't for you." It's like the people that wrote Westworld last season didn't get it. So I mean, like, I loved like Johnny and LMR and Mackenzie. I just did the New Kids on the Block doing the streams. I love your ambition, and I love that. I love the enthusiasm. We were talking about character development, but nobody on there, you know, like you'll hear, and I can get pretentious about like story structure and stuff, and I got to work on that. Hey, but there is some truth to, you can't ignore like basic like things that are just obviously not right, and defend them, because there's this whole misinformation thing where people watch bad stuff and they say that other people didn't get it. And I'm not talking about even HBO, even though it's the worst PR move in the world, but it's always, you guys just don't get it. Like Always Sunny in Philadelphia had a really bad opening episode with whatever her name is, Mindy Kaling, and she didn't fit, and a lot of people didn't care for it. And you see a lot of people on social media saying, you guys are, first off, don't call other people idiots for not liking something. That just shows your ignorance and how stupid you are right there. You didn't like the same television show I liked? You're an idiot. It's like, how does that transfer to intelligence? Number one, it doesn't. But yeah, they're like, you weren't supposed to like Mindy's character, that because Dennis was gone. You guys are so stupid, you don't understand storytelling. And that made me so mad, because I was like, listen, there's a big difference between having a character that doesn't actually fit, meaning it wasn't fun for me or a lot of other people to watch. And it's fine if you liked it, but don't tell me that she was visibly, and everything about it didn't feel right. The point of her character was to come in and try to replace a character that had left that show momentarily to show that the show would be different and blah blah blah. Now it has to be like, it's like bad but good. um the only metaphor I can think about this or example is, you ever notice how you got people on Saturday Night Live like Will Ferrell? Notice how Will Ferrell's not a great singer, but he can sing. Because when you go to, like, I went to Second City, they have classes where they teach you how to properly hit notes and stuff like that. That means it's funny because Will Ferrell can sing just good enough, because it's not like funny to watch somebody that just literally has no understanding of how to hit like even notes, because it's your voice is an instrument. So you can learn how to do that. Everybody can learn how to do that with enough practice. It doesn't mean you're going to be on American Idol, but his sketches are funny because he sings just good enough to be good bad. She was bad in this episode. She's a very talented lady, but she was bad. So just saying, people just have this opinion, oh, it was supposed to be bad. It was supposed to be bad within the show, if that makes sense. It's not supposed to be bad, so it's uncomfortable to watch. That's my point. And again, I don't think you're stupid if you liked it, but I think you're stupid if you call other people dumb for not liking it, and that's your reasoning. Kind of got off there. What's funny is you two actually. Well, I mean, okay. And here's the thing, Johnny. I went to. I wrote in high school, and then I wrote in college, and I wrote at Second City. Now I wrote a lot of like comedy skits and one act plays. I have never finished a screenplay. I have done acting at a local level. I went out to LA and hung out with my buddies that were actors and did a little extra work and like just got insight and met some writers and stuff. And I wouldn't say that like I think people throw around the word like expert like a lot too much, and I'm afraid that like I try to say that I am. I don't. Like right now I just finished listening to all of Adam McKay's books. I'm listening to a new book about plot structure. I actually try to stray away from books that are too focused on like how to write a successful screenplay to get it in the, like, I've read it, but I'm not going to read it again. Like how to write a screenplay in 21 days. I'm not looking to write any screenplays right now, even though I had an idea earlier, but it'd probably be stupid. I'm looking to just better understand the minds of the people that are writing these shows. I think that that's the best way to go about it, because that's what's fun for me. And I think, hey, if I can notice something that like is legitimately like a aspect of this entertaining show that I think is prevalent, and maybe people are overlooking it, and I can find it through some type of character analysis or some sort of focus, videos like that, instead of doing theory videos, which again, I like, or just talk about how good a show is, which is fun. I see a little less substance in it. I don't, it's hard to constitute spending your time on that. I think that's the way to go, because we love these television shows, and it doesn't matter why you love them. It just matters that you love them. To get people to investigate the show again in a way that doesn't make you feel like you're trying to tell them to watch it and they're watching it wrong or so forth, blah, blah, blah. But I think we were talking about spoilers. I think that, bravo to the people. I never publicly shit on people for being successful. Bravo to those that have made a living off of Game of Thrones spoilers. Your timing was magnificent, and it is, it's something people like, evidently. So good. I mean, that's fantastic. That's what it's about. If I say that I just want people to enjoy it more, if that's what makes people enjoy it more, yes. It does bother me a little bit when I do see people calling them like geniuses, like they're breaking down like something technically when they are reading. It's technically sometimes third-hand journalism. But again, they're taking time and they're helping people enjoy what we enjoy. Like I think what Milt and BBM are Fandom D saying doesn't roll off the tongue. BBM, you're one of the most talented people on the freaking platform. I'm gonna act like a dick and make you change your name. But we used to talk about like on the which we got to get going again, the in the mix show. We used to talk about like, remember Netflix shows a lot. and they just don't have. And notice how there's not a lot of traction for like Netflix, like Stranger Things theories and all, even though it's a magnificent series. It's because there's that time you get like your injections of it once a year, and it's a proven fact that people feel like once a show ends, like it's almost, they've done medical testing. Number one, there's a dopamine drop. Number two, a lot of people, it's almost like they've lost a loved one. And it's the reason I think that people don't want content on shows like that is because, like once you lose somebody, usually you probably just don't want to like think about it a lot more than you have to, or you wouldn't want it. So it's almost like that. It's got a very short lifespan. And, you'd have to wonder, and I guess that's my question to you guys. What would Westworld be if it was on Netflix? I don't think and again, I love it, but it wouldn't work because you wouldn't have your theory crafting, and their linear, non-linear storytelling would be just pointless because people are going to binge it. But let's see. I got to get to the other questions here. I think there was a question about sorry, I got to go to them. About the best and worst actors in Thrones. I think that as far as acting goes, I think Alfie Allen and Macy Williams. Alfie Allen more than I love Macy Williams. I hate Arya. Alfie Allen is a great example of a very dimensional character that has done irredeemable things, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's the torture that makes us sympathize with him. And that's another thing that I think that, it doesn't matter what, like, people, I see arguments. Well, it's because he went through this. No, it's up to, we don't know. We don't know why we do the things we do, So like, I take it as that sympathy is coming back around for Theon because Theon said he did the wrong. And I know it sounds silly, but he just knows. He knows what he did was wrong, and he's sorry. He knows he betrayed his family, and it not even saving Sansa. Yes, that helped, but it's just when you have long form storytelling, you have arc after arc after arc, and you see, the struggle, and you see the realism of life that, it's not one series of events that you need to overcome and then everything's okay. You just start to relate. What Mr. Rogers used to carry around in his pocket, a quote that says, if you take the time to learn anybody's story, there's not a person in this world that you can't that you'd be able to dislike. And that's very true. And that's a big difference between character arcs with characters like making changes and just true character coming out. Like Jaime Lannister, in my opinion, yes, he pushed Bran out a window, but that's pretty much in line with, what. I'm not saying it was good. I'm just saying that Jaime hadn't changed that much. He's kind of a static character. He's changed, but not as much as people say. They think there was this big turn. No, we just started having some time in his shoes, and we learned his side of the story. It was always there. It was just told from a dickish standpoint. And I think we enjoy that because we see that it's almost like we are deceived because we learn that, like, at first it's everything the Stark says is right. Then you see some faults in them. So you start to, it's just like you almost feel bad. Like I almost feel bad for the way you feel about Jaime at first, personally, as silly as that sounds. And I think that's what a great story does. It's not just like, oh man, that's cool because that guy changed, used to be bad. That's called kicking the cat, meaning you have a character that's always just bad, or I mean good, and then they do something bad and there's no reason for it. It's flat, it doesn't work, it doesn't make sense. Jaime gradually, yes, he was selfless with Brienne outside of his family, and he started to be more questioning what he was doing, yes. But I don't think there's this dramatic return. But Alfie Allen, best actor. Worst actor, I mean, you got to give it to, I would give it to Bran, personally. He's kind of got a tough role. Like, he took a year off. And now I don't know what they said how to play his character, but if I had to, say his characteristics, I would say opium addict, opium addict with polio. I don't know. Bad joke. Yeah, Bran probably. There's some pretty atrocious acting from, it's not going to be popular to say. Danny at points, but I think that she does get a bad rap as well, because I think Danny really, really, especially for her experience, look at what she was in before. Not good. So I think that, Emilia Clarke is a good actress, but yeah, there's some pretty bad stuff from her at some points. But her first off, all of her scenes have been pretty tough. So yeah, I would just say Elfie is the best, and as far as the worst, I guess you just got to go with what's his face? I already named him. So yeah, Bran. So that was tough. Yeah, Euron. He did make some changes. He was like the hot topic guy. He's like, all right, I'm here to, he walked in, he was wearing some leather, he had skinny jeans, and he made a lot of comments about like, effing Cersei to Jaime. I mean, just things you wouldn't do. But they're like, he's a wild card. So yeah, Euron, I don't know though. He cleaned it up the next season. I think they did a better job with him. It's tough. They throw him in the mix at the last part, so it is what it is. Roose Bolton was, yes, Roose was very on point. Roose was very, very on point. And again, it's like, you can always look at like these people's, like, I mean, how many times did Rob disregard what Roose was saying? Like I do believe that Roose wasn't always going to turn on Rob, but I think the big issue with Rob, not to get into it, is that I've said this before, is he wasn't fighting to conquer land, and he had like no, like, he was fighting the good fight, which sounds fantastic, but when you've got all the people that you don't see, like, like all the foot soldiers and plebs, fighting the good fight for some dad of a lord that's got half your family killed throughout the years, no matter how noble they are, isn't really going to be successful. You have to have goals that, like have like benefit, like what would have been the benefits? So they would have been independent from the South. I know it sounds like I'm kind of like minimalizing that, but that's not that big of a deal to the average peasant, I would assume. So he didn't have a set goal, like that's why Robert became king, because like he had to do it. He couldn't just, all Robert wanted was revenge, whether it was whatever, right or not. But he couldn't stop there. He had to take the throne, because you can't, he would have been killed, because people need a leader, and it made the most sense. And I will always argue that Robert Baratheon, they would have said that was a good time during his reign. There wasn't a lot of fighting. Yes, things were very bad in King's Landing as far as money went, but the people, the peasants, they probably would have said, hey, that's a great rule of King Robert. I mean, look, Ned didn't even know about the debt. He's a warden of the North. That's like, it's very centralized, but blah blah blah. Let's go. And back up to the questions. I think we only got a few more. What do I recommend as far as Netflix? Halt or Catch Fire. I'm trying to finish the video before the hurricane. It has it's the best example, like I've talked about characters being so dimensional, and it's got this great character, Bosworth, played by Toby Hess, that is your typical just hillbilly, sorry for anybody, but Texas good old boy. That it's kind of like a Jamie turn, but it's very good. Because it's one of those situations where you got a hotshot from New York coming down south with all of his creative ideas, and he's kind of like the Steve Jobs of a situation, where he inspires a fellow engineer, he's not one, to create something. So he inspires hope. He's going against the system will get their comeuppance, and all the people from the old way of things, will realize that, hey, they should have listened to the young buck. But that's not how it goes, because that's not how life goes. Now, there's certain situations where these characters do follow those things, but that's a great thing about law-informed storytelling. Now, this is a show I don't think I could have digested very well if I had commercials in it, and if I had to watch it week by week, but it's a show that you should binge. Halt or Catch Fire. It's the AMC's big show that they launched after Mad Men, and you can definitely tell in the first season that the main character, Joe McMillan, played by Lee Pace, somebody you might know him from the Avenger movies and Guardians of the Galaxy, good actor. He definitely, they're trying to recreate a Don Draper, but they definitely they falter a little bit with that, and then by season 2, it's great. It's fantastic. It's a show literally where the stakes are only high because you care about the character so much. They're trying to build an IBM clone. I won't get into it. The point is, they're not trying to create the first computer or the next biggest computer. They're just trying to create a computer that can run the same software that IBM runs. And it's kind of like the story of Compaq, and there's a little bit of Gates in there. Halt or Catch Fire are Peaky Blinders. I have downloaded Ozark because I have not watched it, and I'm trying to prepare for the hurricane. And I have an issue with watching new stuff. Sometimes I feel like I don't know, like it's like going to be a big investment. So I've heard Ozark is really good, and I heard The Alienist is really good. Texas don't have many hills. Yeah, I know. Let's see. Could have had her laugh out loud saying Meg Princess. Texas doesn't have many hills. Around we call them Hoosiers. Yeah, Texas ain't got nothing but steers, and yeah, but it's it's the idea of old versus new, of coming in with out of the box ideas about how to do things and mixing things up. But guess what? In real life, yes, like things are integrated and stuff like that. But and again, it's fictional story, so that's fine. But the great thing about, again, long form storytelling is you don't just get that one arc. You get many, because after they do have, even if it is a success, that doesn't, we all know that once you even have something you thought you could never achieve, it's not like your life's just the best forever. Things go on. Breaking Bad's a great example of that. I mean, he gets all the money and things get worse. It turns into actually him not dying. He regrets not dying. He thinks about it. He's like, oh, I wish I would have died at this point. That would have been perfect. Now I got to deal with this shit. So I love that type of stuff. I love the idea that we don't have to, movies still have their place, but you have, say, 2 hours. You have to establish who somebody is, usually a hero of some sort, whether it doesn't have to be a superhero movie, but a hero is a hero. It's your protagonist, not synonymous protagonist. You're your main character to evoke some empathy for. So let's just use a superhero movie as an example. And it's not a comic movie, which has the advantages of people already know that's the hero because they have the comics. Batman, they know Batman's the hero. So you show somebody doing something heroic. And then you don't want to have a one-dimensional movie, but you need conflict. So you want this character to be, per se, a family man. So this superhero needs to spend more time with his family. Okay, you only have 2 hours, so you can't have a whole bunch of breakfast scenes and a few seasons of like tension with the family. So they're working against time. What's a good plot device? Have the villain abduct the hero's family. Then it shows how much he cares about his family by how much he wants to get them back. And guess what? I want to know how you created your villain? Because he stole somebody's family. So it's just like, I'm not saying it's bad, because it can be quite entertaining and they're usually visually very pleasing, but you just can't do as much. You can only have so many subplots. There can only be so many layers because you just don't have time. Remember when Hawkeye had a family in the Avengers? And that probably should have been cut. I mean, like, it just is not organic. You can't do it. Like there's these storylines of like these people, like the old cliche of got to get the big account, but the guy is not spending enough time with his family, or maybe he's cheating on his wife. So that's the subplot. Somehow his wife might come in, or like his family ends up helping him get the big, which there's no such thing as getting the big account. You know what I mean? And so it's like shoehorned in. It's only can be there because it's there and they want it there. Which is true in any story, but it's just not. It's like killing two birds with one stone. They're like, well, what's his other motivation? He's got a family. They're like, does he? Well, yeah, we wrote it in the script. They're like, how do we know he cares about his family? Because Lex Luthor stole the family, so he'll be upset about that. People get that. People get that they don't want their family killed. That's relatable. The audience will like that. When the superhero wins and the family doesn't die, guess what? Good ending. And then he learned the value of his family a little bit more. But in Mad Men, you have a situation where he gets divorced. He gets another divorce. He doesn't get the big deal, the big account. He ends up in some hippie commune. So I just think that we should definitely appreciate long form television. And I know a lot of people are into The Expanse and they keep telling me to watch it. But, full disclosure, I know that I'm all about Westworld, but I don't like sci-fi that much. I know I'm probably going to get shit for it. I don't know. I'll watch it, but I have a hard time getting into. I was very surprised I was as much in this sci-fi as I was with Westworld. Very, very surprising. And any stuff you guys want to hear about, I appreciate you guys. You know, a lot of you have been here since the beginning, and you know, it means a lot. And I truly do want to make content that is not only something I can be proud of, but something that can help. And I'm trying to get a grasp on that. You know, at first I thought I'd come in and try to be some, you know, pretty much I was a cocky prick and thought I knew more. And I will make these breakdown videos, but you know, it's hard to find your footing. So I think that really sitting out there and looking at taking your time and doing like stuff like even, you know, Johnny, who just started, and all you guys are doing great jobs even with your live streams with your character analysis. That, I think that's a good idea, because you're not sitting making bold claims, which is, you know, people can make theories, that's great, but in the end it's fan fiction. You know, you're doing something that's based, it comes from a place of intelligence, and it comes from I think that, you know, it can make, it's not about teaching people stuff, because who the hell am I to teach people stuff? It's about having people enjoy things more. So if you can maybe enlighten people a little bit more on like story structure and, you know, acts, like how acts are broken down within a story, so you know, like if things like you're like, man, the show feels off, you kind of know why it's off, so you know what to look for when you're watching a new show. You see like, oh, I like the pacing, oh man, this dialogue's interesting. And I mean, it's exciting. I mean, if you like, obviously the people that are watching this love television and love film, so you're into directors, you're into cinematography, maybe you're into, you know, maybe you know the names of certain writers that are particularly good at writing dialogue, which they exist, not just Quentin Tarantino, but you know, there's people that are specialized and stuff. So I just recommend to Johnny, and I'll recommend to anybody else. Robert McKay, I mean, he's kind of a cliche, but if you want a basic understanding, like start, even if you've never taken a writing class in your life, and again, I don't write anymore. I don't. I'm just saying, like, to understand character and to get kind of like just an insight into things. Not that you don't understand it, but you get maybe a little bit more of an insight, so you can kind of see. I think that if you truly do want to like make predictions and stuff, that's going to get you far more. You got to look at where they can realistically go. I think a lot of people get caught up in what they want to happen rather than you know, it's like selective research. And it's like, that doesn't fit my theory, I'm not reading that. So let's see. Amberlyn, I know you love The Expanse. I heard what is Tarantino? Oh, Doomsday. Come on. Okay, Disney. Milt asked about Disney. Okay, so Milt, what's going on? So Disney got. I gotta look. I see exactly what I. Oh, I haven't caught up on the mouse. I heard he might be monopolizing that. Wish I could cut that. Also, I am looking to do a podcast. I'm looking for people that are interested in doing the podcast. Granted, I'm still around after this hurricane. I'd like to get that going. That's almost what this was going to be. Let's see. What is Disney doing? You know, Disney, I can't, those guys are stand-up fellas. Let's see. What are they up to? Did they buy the world yet? They will ruin entertainment. I'll tell you that. Having a monopoly over creativity is not good, especially when it's all. I mean, obviously, I don't mind the business side, but we already see how one-dimensional characters are becoming because of the global market. You know, certain types of humor and especially dialogue in plot points, you know, they want it to be as monolithic as possible, for lack of a better word. Okay, so from what I hear, they got some new parks, which they're doing good. Okay. Guardians of the Galaxy had a director that I guess made some off-color jokes. Milt, what happened exactly here? Put it in the actual doobly-doo. I'm assuming, did they get Fox? Was that official? Let's see. Okay. Milt, did they buy Fox? BBM, I don't know what. I'm gonna cut the head off of Funko in a live stream. I'm pretty sure. Okay, I'm assuming they bought Fox. Somebody. Correct me if I'm wrong. So, okay, they bought Fox. So what is that? I with nothing in front of me, I'm assuming they bought Fox. Does that mean they got Hulu as well? I know they already had a piece of Hulu, so Hulu would become completely theirs. Um, I'm assuming. I mean, I don't know. I mean, isn't it? How much of okay, if they have Hulu and they're gonna start their own streaming service, so you have Amazon and Netflix standing against them, right? I don't get why Amazon and Netflix don't partner up. I think that's the move, but I'm not a fucking business expert. Um, Nothing's done yet. I mean, I don't okay, this is what I'll put it. I don't know the legality of it because again, I'm not a lawyer. I would say though, as far as like what we are looking to happen, it and as far as entertainment goes, it's not good for us. It's not good for the fans. It's never good to have a lack of options of who's creating these television shows and films. I mean, think about that. It's already a very, very tight business. It's already very, very it's hard to get into the bit. I think we all know the stories. I don't want to say anything. It's tough to break into the industry and they stick with their own. The more and more diversity you have, meaning like other people with money owning studios, the better off you are. The better off you get something new. Disney doesn't look to make the next Star Wars. They look to make the next Star Wars, meaning they're just going to keep making Star Wars. It doesn't make a advantageous environment if Disney owns like 60 to 70% of the market for creativity because you don't have any openings for anybody that's looking to do something new. They want to do what they see. They have formulas, and again, because people that run studios, they're lawyers, and there's nothing. You have to have those people, but the reason you have to have a good amount of diversity amongst your people actually running different studios is because you have to just have a lot of different lawyers because there's a lot of different creative people that are going to be at WB, they're going to be blah blah blah, Paramount, Touchstone, whatever, Brad Pitt's Plan B, whatever, not Plan B, whatever, you get it. The less diversity within an industry is just going to be more shut out to new creators. The only thing I would say is there might be a silver lining because think about YouTube, think about podcasting, think about what the digital age has brought. There is a good chance that mainstream media, not just news, but mainstream film could end up succumbing in the future to not YouTube but independent creators. It is so much easier. I remember when I was in high school, and I'm not that old, pretty old though. And the amount of money and time it took us to get our cameras and our editors or avids were like $20,000 to $30,000. Cameras, I mean, now look, this microphone 10 years ago would have probably been like $2,000. So I mean, it's becoming more and more easy for you to create films that are you can get different harnesses and gimbals to even shoot with lower quality cameras to produce what it would be a good quality film, like up to par with any good indie at Sundance or anything like that. And as the time goes on, it'll be up to the part when you can make your own avatar. The problem is distributing it. That's where it comes in because the big studios are going to be like, no, everybody's watching Star Wars 180, not this. So they'll close them out on that side. So, it'd be hard to maybe, the problem is the distributors aren't going to be like lone wolf rogues. Those are money people. They go where the money is. So maybe eventually, but yeah, I mean, it's becoming easier and easier to make films on a fairly low budget. So it maybe could influence an uprising of say like a indie, like they had in the early 90s, kind of a flux in that. But no, it's not good. It's just not good. I mean, and the Disney's not. I mean, Walt Disney, real piece of shit. But no, they don't. It's numbers, I mean, which again, it's business. That's fine, but no, because again, you can't have You never would have had Star Wars if everybody that made any sci-fi thing before just just ran the market and like just if Kubrick just like continuously smashed out movies and bought everything up and closed out George Lucas, who by the way was against merchandising and all that, and he's the biggest money whore in the world. So you get I mean it's just never good. So like they have to realize, I guess there has to be a certain respect to the art. But again, I'm not a billionaire that's sitting there being a billionaire. Maybe if I was, I'd be like, fuck indie film, fuck anything other than Disney. Let's make another prequel to Star Wars. Who else did people not see the origins of? Which is everybody, so they'll keep popping those babies out. And they're quick. Look at how quick they are to can Rian Johnson and stuff. They are look at that power they have. They're going to have their own movie theaters where they only show Disney movies. Think about that. Would that be a viable business option for them if they weren't planning on owning everything? No, it wouldn't. And it's not going to be cheap. So I would say, no, that's not a good thing. And close it off with just the fact that when you look at every, like, don't watch too much news because it's depressing. But it's funny now because they used to laugh at podcasts and YouTubers and stuff like that. Now every anchor on CNN and every network always plugs their podcast at the end. I have a friend in radio, and I worked in radio a little bit in Detroit, and she moved to Oregon so she could have her own show. And I talked to her and I go, no offense. I'm like, but would it be like better for you to have, say, like a six, not, like I hope to be successful one day, but not like my level, but like, let's say like a podcast, like that, was bringing in some bank, like a podcast, like not Joe Rogan, but somewhere in between. Would that be better than having a radio show in Oregon, which is like, I think it's in the top 20 for the radio markets, but it's like, I don't know, like back in the day when I was when I was a club DJ, that's all I wanted to do was get on the radio. And now I don't think I'd do it, especially in North Carolina. No way I do radio here. There's no money in it. There was never money in radio. You just get money from performances, but just look at how it's swaying already. It's already swaying. You got people saying, and make sure to follow me on Twitter and do this. And that's another thing that feeds into these fandoms. What is great about things going viral? Theories go viral. People just want their tweets to be read. I want my tweets to be read. Sometimes they're good. Sometimes they're not just spam. So, I mean, a lot of different aspects of the technology age figure into this. So you have to figure in people are looking to better their social standing, meaning their social media standing, because companies pay you for Instagram posts, companies pay you for this. So, art and business can clash real quick. And these independent lone wolf channels, which I think, for one, and I ran in a minute, YouTube channels, I think for every 5 YouTube channels, that should be 1. And I think that there should be a better process for us to work together, because I think that there's so many channels that lend themselves to each other and they could make great quality. Some people have really good ideas, but they're not great at reading. Some people have really good, whatever, they have great voices, but their video editing sucks. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, because this is like the job of 13 people, not bitching, but it would make more sense to start running networks, to start having channels that like is like 5 people grouped together, blah, blah, blah. But then you got to deal with people, and people suck. So, but I can't thank you guys enough. Yeah, Dark Maul. Let's see. Let's see if I mix anything. Yeah, now I will say I do want to see the Kenobi. I do want to see why can't I think of his name? I'm not a huge on Star Wars. But yeah, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think that's, but everybody always wanted to see that. We wanted to see that because he makes sense. I'd love to see a Blood Raven, like Brendan Rivers. Because when you only see somebody like past their prime, it makes sense to see their prime. You don't want to see the origins necessarily of people in their prime. It's, because we saw Han Solo in his prime, and then they're like, hey, guess what it was before that? I'm like, probably worse. Worse. Like, well, people didn't know how he got his name. They're like, oh, because he was a guy that was alone, so he's solo. It's like, that's not interesting. It's a bad premise. You know what I mean? Like, we saw these guys and we saw them when the story was interesting. So you don't need to show us other shit. We didn't get to see Obi-Wan except for in the prequels, which is what it is. at his height. So I would. I mean, I guess we technically did, didn't we? Am I going? Did we see him at his height? But that movie sucks so bad that I don't count it. Obi-Wan's a good one. Obi-Wan's a good one. And Knights of the Old Republic would be something I would watch. And I have very little Star Wars knowledge, but I like it because I like the idea of the, at one point, the dark side and the light side, we're not as segregated or whatever. And it's like the idea of it's a religion. Again, I don't know a lot about Star Wars, but it is what it is. So yeah, I think Knights of the Old Republic would be good. I know Obi-Wan is a fair one, but I mean, what are you going to do? They're going to keep making them until they just get boycotted. So, let's see. Peaky. We see. I think I missed one question. Not. Oh, worst accent, definitely Ben Hogan is Littlefinger. There's a great dialect guy that teaches all the stars. They're not all. He teaches all the stars, every one of them. No, look up dialect expert. It'll come up on YouTube, and he'll talk. They'll talk about all that. He's really good. Like, he breaks down Brad Pitt and Inglourious Basterds. A lot of people, like, he doesn't just shit on them. Let's see. I see some people talking about Fear the Walking Dead. I'm not watching it. I've heard that they just essentially have just killed off the people they started with. Now it looks like it's in the same type of setting. That was the whole premise of the show. The concept was to show a different time period in a different geographical location, in a different group of people, meaning different characters with different lifestyles and so forth, and show something completely different. Now you couldn't be more different when you literally send Morgan over there. It's just like, I don't know. I mean, it's not like I'm like all gonna stand on a high horseback. I just can't respect that. I just don't give a fuck. That's what I don't give a fuck about. And it's, the issue of it's just nothing's different. It's just basically an episode of a different community at this point, from what I grasp. In man, I feel bad for and I don't feel bad, but the Walking Dead fans that are in the Walking Dead content creators, some of which are pretty decent people, they're fucked. No offense, but they're fucked. Because they did really well with the Walking Dead, and that's the way it is. It's a curse because nobody's going to want to hear. I don't wish bad upon them, but I'm saying you can see it. I see very logical, I won't name names, fairly intelligent people that have covered The Walking Dead exclusively and have done a good job of covering it, that have, like, on air and live streams, probably not much worse than this, but like just in straight denial. Like, you can see them with the internal struggle, and they're like, I mean, I'm not happy about the Rick thing, but I'm just saying maybe, and again, I don't agree with it, but maybe it'll work out and my channel won't go to shit and I need my job back. That's the problem. But then again, try to do everything, and diversity doesn't work too good on YouTube. So, I mean, I'm just happy for, not to be all sappy, but for the people that support me, Amberlyn, Milt, BBM, everybody that's in this chat. You're here because you're a friend. You're here because you are an enthusiast. You're here because you care about, things that are important to you, which there's no shame in giving a bunch of fucks about Game of Thrones, Westworld, and all that, because stories that's what rules our life. Nothing is more fucking just amazing to me than a well-told story, especially once I really started to figure out, years ago, what it took to really write a good story. It's just so inspiring, and we live our lives as if we're living a story. Those stories get us through life. So I would argue that being obsessed with Game of Thrones is far less weird than being obsessed with, like, soccer in America. So, and you like what you like. Some people like that ASMR, and then some people like real porn. Yep, I am beginning. Yeah, Ford with his stories. Yeah, Ford is exposition bot. You know, he he's one of those unrealistic, but he's great. It works. He's always got a speech prepared. But again, the world is action and reaction. So he would realistically be sitting there and be like, "No, ask about evolution." They're like, "Why?" He's like, "Because because I got a whole bunch of quotes from people. So I practiced all night. Can you ask about evolution? And they're like, wow, well, I guess what makes us different? He's like, humans fancy themselves. And then he goes on his little rant. So yeah, it wouldn't be as organic, but God, Anthony Hopkins, one hell of an actor. Um, just fantastic. So yeah, it's just a little bit tough to not see a foreseeable future for some shows that I did love, like The Walking Dead. And I do see Westworld. I have optimism for them. I think that they're ironically that the premise that they're going with, in which pretty much a new beginning, is ideal since the last series of events was left a lot to be desired. So I think that as long as they start, because they kind of have to start over, but it makes sense to start over. It's not a retcon. It's just starting over because they're in a new world. So a time jump with a start over and be a little bit less heavy handed, I think it's going to be good. So I can't thank you guys enough. Yeah, stories. The great thing about stories, Amber, is you know they tell a lot of us about events, and it's really interesting to me. No, yeah. So I'm obsessed. So I think it's just amazing when anybody can pull off just not only creating the story, but then getting through the business side of getting somebody to give a fuck about that story. So I support anybody that is an enthusiast and is part of the fandom. Fandom family means fandom family, and I want to try to get more people together. Shout out to the new kids on the block, and shout out to people like Milt K. I know Milt is going to be giving an analyst about the real world, and now we had to talk about this because Milt's like something you actually call an expert. They're very rare on YouTube. So we're gonna have him on, and he's gonna really break down like what we've seen from the show, like, and what the real situation would be. And again, I told them, I go, I don't want to like scrutinize them because I don't think it's fair unless they really start to cement down like information about the actual landscape until a show like states something specific about their fucking landmass or something, and then you can't really hold them to a topological report, in my opinion. But I think it's very interesting to have Milt's opinion because he's caught some really interesting stuff, because I think they might go down that route, and then we can look at that information in kind of see what's going on from it. And plus it adds to immersion because we feel like we can understand. Like Milt had a great metaphor, and I put it in my videos, that it's about the size of Houston. That helps people when you're watching the story. You understand the lay of the land. That helps you enjoy the story more because you relate to it more. So the more and more real world factual information that's relevant that you can provide. And again, if you have a friend that's an expert in anything, get them on your YouTube channel. You know what I mean? It's just a smart thing to do. And Milt's very good about it. So, and somebody did, before the dust settled, left a comment saying they were listening to me and Hacks, but then almost stopped watching. They didn't stop watching when our knowledge of geology, geology, it was because we said the deserts wouldn't be that close to the forest. It seemed weird, was so lacking. I'm like, Jesus. I'm like, I don't remember ever saying that I was a fucking scientist, but whatever. So we'll get Milt on. And hopefully if the hurricane doesn't hit, I will be on with Johnny again. Everybody go check out Johnny. He's a young buck. He's up and coming, and he's been very ambitious, and he's been out there doing live streams, and his progression is right in front of our eyes. We're seeing him in his formative years, and he has a mind for the stories. He's just not a guy that's like, Westworld's cool, everybody check it out how cool it is. That's more Game of Thrones stuff. So yeah, check him out. Can't thank you guys enough for your support. I just wanted to connect with you guys. Been under a lot of stress. So the hurricane is going to come, and I'll probably be fine. So hopefully I keep my power, and thank you guys. Make sure to subscribe if you have not. Amberlyn, I can't thank you enough for your support in all aspects of life. And that super chat is just I feel bad even having it, but yeah, everything helps. Um, so thank you guys so much. Make sure to subscribe and let me know if you want to see any particular series being broken down, and specifically character analysis, whether it be Thrones or not. I want to be looking more at specific characters and looking at them and seeing what we can tell about what's going to happen by what's already happened. Thank you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.